So bullet number one, I wanted to share that Chicago is still a very solid investment city. Here's why. Over the last few years in COVID, we have seen other cities absolutely see high trajectory of sales prices. Chicago, yes, we have seen some higher price points, but we haven't seen what other cities have seen. And what does that mean? It means we're a nice, steady investment for those Chicagoans. And it also means we're still an affordable city compared to a Los Angeles, a New York, a Boston, a Denver. We are still very affordable. Chad, did you want to chime in on point number one?
Yeah, well, it was funny. You and I were looking a little bit before this on some of those major metropolitan areas. Like, I love Boston. I think Boston's a great area. It reminds me a lot of Chicago. Historic, iconic feel, just great city, great working class city. And gosh, we were looking at their median prices, and it was 680 to 700,000. And then we look at Chicago, and it's 327,000 for the average home, right? And we looked at Seattle and LA, and those were close to 900,000. So almost 3 times more expensive. So when you look at Chicago as a world-class city, which we both do, the third largest city in our country, it's just highly affordable when you compare it to other major metropolitan areas.
Absolutely. Completely agreed. And I always tell my clients, you can plan on about a 3 to 4% appreciation over year. So it's just a good, sound, steady investment.
Can I show something to back that up?
Yes.
So sure. You hit the nail on the head. Over a 63-year time frame, Chicago has averaged 3.85% appreciation per year. Over the last 10 years, it's been 5.38. So an amazing, steady investment. Or that was 10 years, excuse me. And over 5 years, it's 5.99, so almost 6%. Now, this is a forecast by myself in a service, but about 3.9, exactly what you said for the upcoming year. And the 5-year is 24%. So that is over a 5-year period. So anytime you get 24% on an investment, that's a great rate of return. Absolutely.
But it's still approachable. Like we said, the median sales price is in the 300s, where in other major metropolitan cities, it's double, if not triple that. So still very affordable. Unless you're renting. That's our point number 2, is that rental prices are going up. In the last year, we have seen rental prices go up 25%. I'll share my screen now. Here you go. So you can see in January of 2022, rental prices were $1,500, where at the end of 2022, they went up to $1,875 as your median rental price in Chicago, which means we saw about a 25% increase in rental prices in Chicago. So there are, I think we saw the math, like over 500,000 people who really financially should be owning instead of renting, because it's a better sound investment, again, that you're going to see a steady appreciation, and it's going to give you a return on your investment. Chad, if you want to touch on that as well.
We figure there's about 526,000 people who in the Chicago metropolitan area who could afford to buy, who just haven't. Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So why, we never know. I have some people that have bought in 2019, right? And the market was a normal market then. They held off. They had to leave in 2020 or 2021. They rented it out for a year. They maximized their investment, and they sold for a 30, 40, 50% return. And when we look how much they put down, some of them were almost quadrupling in their appreciation versus the money they put into it, actually almost a 400% return on their investment. So that's why renters should consider buying is those situations. And as you can see with the forecast, and with inventory, it might be something to touch on, Julie, there's just not going to be a big pivot backwards because of the lack of inventory.
I agree. We are 25% down on inventory compared to last year. However, we are seeing some pickup for those buyers who are active out there. We are seeing some pickup for the spring market, and we know of some off-market options too that you may not be seeing out there. So call us for that too. But I agree, we're just low on inventory nationwide and in Chicago. So I don't see prices coming back. As we've mentioned before, we are predicting about a 3 to 4% appreciation this year. So,
yeah, and I just feel everyone gets this wrong. Inventory, people think that a home is listed, that's inventory. Well, it's not inventory if that person's got to go somewhere else, which is usually the case. And unless they passed away, or unless they're getting married and combining a home, usually that person has to go somewhere. And if there's no developing or lower developing going on, the last stat I looked at is permits are down by 40% to build new homes this year. There's just not going to be that magical inventory that comes up that supports our population growth, that supports how many new household formations there are out there, which is great for sellers and great for people to invest in real estate, to know that it's going to be a steady appreciation and they're going to get a return on their investment.
Absolutely. So also, as we're talking about finances here, our third bullet of top 3 reasons why to still buy in Chicago is rates. I know everyone's seeing some volatility on rates, but we wanted to set the story straight as to where the rates are compared to history. So Chad, if you want to chime in on that.
Yeah, so we pulled today the average rate today as of March 6th at 3:30 Central Standard Time. The average interest rate today is 6.625. The average interest rate over the last 30 years is 6.725, right? So we're right on par with average. Perspective's everything. You know, the last 2-3 years, we've seen interest rates in the 2s and 3s. That was aided by our government, by the Federal Reserve, purchasing mortgage bond. It was fake. It was fictitious. It really didn't exist. I know you felt it all did exist, but those aren't real market rates. What we're seeing right now is,
yes.
And gosh, I'm just a big believer in the price you get the home for is permanent. The interest rate is temporary. And when there's lower interest rates, there's higher demand. And when you have less inventory and more demand, it's going to drive prices up. So I just think it's a great time to take advantage of that and get a property at list, negotiate a little bit, whatever it may be, instead of having everything run up way above list, because there's so many buyers for the limited demand there.
Yes. And there are, working with professionals like Chad and myself, we can help you negotiate getting your rate down. There are different ways to do that as well. Yes, you can always do a refi down the road if rates were to get better. But also there are strategies for us as your realtor professionals to help you negotiate perhaps a seller credit to help buy down your rate. So there are still great options and opportunities out there for buyers and sellers. So we just wanted to set the record straight and share our top 3 reasons why it's still a good time to buy in Chicago. Anything else you want to add, Chad?
No, I think if you're an investor, it's a great time to buy. We see a lot of people buying investment properties for their kids that are 2 or 3 years old, putting them on 15-year loans. They'll be paid off by the time they're in college. We see a lot of that. We see a ton of renters getting stung with 25, 30. I've seen as high as 60% rental increases on their lease. And they can go lock in their costs by buying a home. And I think it's common for people to say, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. You know, Chicago is kind of transient. We see people that get moved for their jobs. That's okay. You own the real estate. You can rent it out. Julie and her team are professionals. They'll tell you when the appropriate time to sell it is. Maybe you do have to hold on to a property and rent it out if market conditions aren't ideal, but they eventually will be, and you'll maximize your investment.
Absolutely. Well, I'll recap. Top 3 reasons why now is still a good time to buy in Chicago. Number 1, Chicago is a good investment. It has been over 63 years. Thank you for that information, Chad. I'm glad I was giving correct information out there. It's a good, solid, sound investment. Number 2, rental rates are just going up. So save yourself some money by investing in real estate, and then you can get a return on your investment. And number three, rates are at lower than the average that we have seen. So still a very good time to buy. So thank you all for watching. Call either of us if you have any questions. You can always reach us.